Welcome back to the shop, gentlemen. This weekend is important. It's something I look forward to all year. It's the big boy ride. We'll be taking the motos up to a giant loop up on Fuji. Now, Jack will be joining us for the first year, and it is the most difficult thing I've ever done. And that's coming from a background of someone that's been pretty heavily involved in extreme sports, rock climbing, skydiving, kiteboarding, that sort of thing. Hands down, there's nothing more difficult than hard enduro riding. You have a 60-pound machine that's anywhere between 225, 250 pounds over difficult, hard terrain. And to be able to do this with all of the gear, when I'm all specced out with gear, I'm at 240 pounds with that machine it's really the ultimate test of endurance. I ride 5 days a week. I don't share a lot of that with you. It's really my thing. It's how I clear my head. It's the time that I have to kind of recharge, and I love it just about more than anything. So I ride solo a lot in this environment. So that's forced me to make my bike as absolute tough, armored, and bulletproof as possible to just mitigate any problems I might have. I just can't fall over and break an engine case or break a brake rotor or something that's critical because I'm 20 miles from the closest road. So I thought while I was setting everything up, I would share what I've done. It's kind of interesting if you're into this sort of thing. A lot of thought's been put into this. I've borrowed a lot from professional racers, but I've really dialed in a machine that is absolutely phenomenal for this environment. Let's go, we'll do a tip to tail, and that might be of interest to you. This is a 2018 TE300 Husqvarna. It's last year the carbureted bike. I decided to rebuild this bike from the ground up instead of replacing it with a 2023 because the fuel-injected bikes, in my opinion, are not reliable enough for me to take in the wilderness by myself. This has been proven to me. I've got 400 hours on it. Never has it let me down, and I'll stick with it until they get that fuel injected worked out. I run two different wheel sets. I have a road set or a fire road set where I'm going to be ripping faster, higher speeds, and that's going to be a 19, and I run Michelin medium compound tires because they last longer in that condition. I have a 19 on the back. I don't like that for hard enduro because the tire profile is too skinny and you get a lot of suspension out of the 18. So gearing on the 18 and 19 wheels is different. So for my highway or my fire road setup, I run a 1348 sprocket combination. Now when I'm riding hard enduro, I ride the 18-inch wheel with the 1252. And that way, that's the extreme sprockets that I can go and still use the original chain, because I don't want to break the chain and have to replace that. Tubeless, of course, so we can run those low pressures. So the tubeless system allows you to run, 4 or 5 PSI, massive traction. So big improvement there. The wheels all stock apart from the tubeless system in that. Factory chain, factory sprocket. I got this off of Jack's bike, actually, because I didn't have a 48. Here in the swing arm, there's a vulnerable spot where this chain slider, the factory one's not very tough, so this is upgraded to a TMD. This is kind of the gold standard for chain guides. It's much tougher and more rebuildable. And then this piece here is actually strengthens this. This makes a lot of impact on rocks. And there's two tabs on here that whole thing can break off and shear off. So what this does is adds an extra bolt and really ties this all together. So this is really bulletproof and not going anywhere. Here on the drive side, just the factory kickstand, factory sliders right here. These are Fastway pegs, a stainless steel. They give a big platform and they're absolutely excellent and really tough. And what's nice for tall riders like myself with long arms is you can mount these, it's either 5 or 10 meters lower and back. So it gives you just a little bit more room to stretch out. It makes a big difference. And these are definitely my favorite pegs. This sprocket here, JT, I believe, with a Dirt Tricks washer. These factory washers, if you change gearing a lot like I do, they're not designed for that, and they won't hold enough support. And you can mess up your bearing on your shaft right there. So I upgraded that because I do change sprockets a lot. The original shifter is very light duty and not up to snuff and breaks often in rocks. So this is a hammerhead, which is forged and better ergonomics and way tougher. I've never broken one of these. This also, I run a Recluse clutch, auto clutch, and this is the cylinder for that. This is very vulnerable right here because rocks and different things can be carried through here and break this off, and that will strand you. So this is a billet recluse actually cover over this with a support that ties back into the frame, so it protects that. So nothing's perfect, but you just have to, you know, try to make things as good as you can. I add inline fuel filter that doesn't come factory, and of course the Electron Carburetor. Front wheel is a 21 with tubeless factory brake, titanium bolts on there. I've had the suspension custom done by Kreft, and they added a high-speed circuit down here, so there's an adjuster that doesn't come on the factory bikes. One of the best things I ever did was go with the Kreft suspension. It was life-changing. And I've added a Chirpy's guard right here for this, just to cover up. There's a clicker down there that's really vulnerable. I just put that on there, and I haven't tested it thoroughly, but it seems to work pretty good. I also safety wire my brake pins. These can be knocked out and you can lose brakes, and that could be a big problem, especially if you get in some tough areas. This just wire keeps that, doesn't give the ability to slip off. The front forks are protected by these dingo. These are ABS, very tough guards to protect those expensive front forks. So from impact, rocks, these are very, very important. We've got a tugger strap on here. We drop bikes, a lot of bikes slip off some of the more exposed trails, blow a corner out, and it's almost impossible to get the bikes out without a retrieval system, which we take with us. So I've got these heavy tugger straps. These new ones tie into the fork, the clamp bolts, and are really, really good. The factory headlight, if you get caught out after night, is anemic at best, not sufficient. So that's upgraded with a Cyclops super high LED racing light. So very, very bright, probably 10 times brighter than factory. This 300 is plated. I have a piece of inner tube I keep over the tire to protect that plate. You know, they get beat up off-road. It does have a tail light. And you know those pesky trail cameras are always about. The seat, the factory moto seat is not something you'd want to ride on all day. So this is a Seat Concepts. It's a better designed, wider seat, much more comfortable, and probably one of the first things I'd put on. There's the rear tugger strap. You can see that. So you can grab the bike, muscle it around, move it around, and do what you need to do. For the controls, I run a Ram-style rear view mount that I can easily fold out of the way. Those can be dangerous. You get off-road, they can flop down and get down in your brake handle. I've actually seen it happen. So when I'm on the road or connecting trails, I'll use this, and with one hand I can flip it down and get it out of my way. Here on the left, regular grips wired. Even the clamp-on style, I've spun them. It's really dangerous, so I wire the grips on there so they don't move. You'll notice a double lever here. I don't run a foot brake. We do a delete on the foot brake, and we set it up more like a mountain bike. My rear brake is here, and this is my clutch. Now I don't need the clutch because I run the auto clutch, you know, except for just once in a while, so it's not really important. This is custom built, get that out of the way, a custom built accessory here by a local guy that came up with this to mount the double handle on here. This is just a clamp on I got from Slavens that's got the regular Ram mount. This is a universal mount, so you can put, you know, mirrors or whatever you want to, your GPSs. Don't run your phone on your handlebars, it eats the cameras. So we have a different solution for that. Moving over here, I keep a volet strap on here for just wrapping stuff up. Coats, jackets. I keep a paper map for a backup. But the little hack there, on these little straps, if you put a zip tie on there, they won't come loose. I used to try to keep this here, and whenever I'd take it loose, it'd fall on the ground. So this limits it, so it's always there. I can stuff a coat under there, hats, whatever. I keep a pad on here because I have hit here so hard so many times, you know, almost going over the handlebars. I cannot put a GPS or a trail tech on here because I've broken it off 2 times. So I don't put anything on there except for coats or things that are soft. My zip ties, I just run in here. You never know where you're going to need those. These are flex bars. These handlebars have an elastometers, what do you call these things? Rubber bushings in here, and these actually flex and move and take a lot of the shock out of those hard edges that you receive. And I found on my hands that my hands were going numb on big rides from the shock and just the abuse. When I put these on, it took all that away. So I'm a big fan of it. It's a little bit heavy, you can feel it, but it's worth it. Another thing I'm always constantly battling is vibration, and so I had solid brass inserts put in this and then threaded for the handlebars, so there's a lot of mass in there. So that vibration that tries to come through, it can't get through all this rubber and all that mass, and it made a huge, huge difference. Here you can see the revalve control here for the Kreft. awesome, awesome suspension system. You know, my baseline is 6. If I'm going really hard, I'll go 6 to the left. And if I'm high speed, fire roads, I'll go 10. You know, so it's an awesome, awesome system. Risers on here, 1-inch risers. I like that. It helps me, it puts me in a more comfortable position when I'm standing. So factory KTM risers. And then this is a custom mount built for my Trail Tech that I just built here. I had to put it down here because I kept stripping it off the handlebars. And what this is essentially all my GPS, all of our riders have them, and they tie in, and we can track each other. So I can see on the screen where all my riders are, and we can send SOSs. And then you have your full engine management system right here, which is going to give you, all those speedometer and such. This is a nice versatile unit. We use these on our snow bikes as well. Standard KTM throttle tube, nothing new here. This is a little something I learned from the hard enduro guys. It's a little piece of rubber band or inner tube you can make with some fuel line and a zip tie, and it makes a really great handy thing for putting in snacks. I'll put snacks in here or high energy like these goos. Nutrition is really a big part of being able to maintain stamina on the big rides, and having it where you can grab it and just remind you is nice. Pro Bend guards, these are pretty well the toughest gold standard for full wrap guards. Somewhat controversial with some guys. They say these break your wrists if you go over the handlebars, and they do. But where we ride in the timber and the trees, it's a trade-off. We don't ride fast typically. We ride slow, very difficult, hard, more trials type of riding. So this works good. I wrap my levers with bike wrap for like road bikes. It in wet environments and cold and hot, it just insulates you a little bit. It just feels nice in my fingers. I feel like I just have a little bit, I don't know, it's just one of those little creature comforts. It's kind of nice. Front wheel's a 21-inch Husqvarna KTM Power Parts axle puller. I'm really hands-on with my bike. I'm always working on it, so having the axle puller makes it easier to get that axle out. I don't have to grab another tool. Factory fork guards, tubeless up here. I'm running a Tusk tire, trying that out for the first time. Another essential item, Bulletproof Radiator Guards. These are a heavy armored, billet aluminum, I guess, that cover your radiators that protect from impact. They're tied into the frame, and they're so strong that if you drop the bike over here on the side shroud, it will not bend these. If you lose this up there, you're in a bad way. I try to get as much weight out of my pack as possible, so all my tools and spare parts are kept on the bike in very creative ways. So this is an extra shift lever, and I keep a nut and washer in my pack. Just anything I can get off my pack is very helpful to me. So I have this safety wired onto the radiator guard in case I or a friend needs one. The pipe is an FMF Gnarly. This is a little bit heavier gauge, thicker pipe, a little bit more durable. I have full pipe wrap and guards. I just don't like them. They feel clumsy on me, and they gather rocks and mud and all that. I would rather just let the pipe kind of take the abuse. There's a billet collar guard on there so that in the event of impact, this reinforces that flange and I don't break that out of the cylinder. That can happen. So that holds that all tight. So the sacrificial piece is going to be the pipe. I've installed a Trail Tech electric fan kit with thermostat. This is essential. It's set at 188 degrees, seems to be the sweet spot where you won't run your battery down. But this fan kicks on at 188 and circulates and keeps that engine so much cooler. Here we have the S3 cylinder head and the Samco. These Samco silicone hoses are handmade in England, the highest quality. You'll see them on all race bikes. The factory ones are not reliable after a couple of years. They're very thin, butyl rubber, and they have a very complicated thermostat. All that stuff is all bypassed. It's just not necessary. Once I stripped that out of there, the bike ran 10 degrees cooler. The engine is factory apart from the head. We've got V-Force reeds, upgraded carburetor, and ECU. So it's really designed, the engine is really tuned for low-end, mid-range torque. A very consistent linear power curve that makes it easy and predictable when you're on really scary, gnarly cliffs and edges of stuff where you just can't fall off. Carbon Up armor clutch cover. The factory clutch covers are very thin, almost like a casting of some sort. You could take a small hammer and easily break it. So if you fall over and a rock hits this, you are done because all your clutch oil leaks out, and that's a huge problem. So these Carbon Ups are made out of a special carbon blend, something proprietary, and they're tough as iron. There's videos of these guys sitting these on the ground and hitting them with sledgehammers and they won't break. So that was a really good upgrade. Another thing that's essential that they've taken away on the new bikes is a Kickstarter. Batteries do run out, they do go flat, and when you don't have the option of having an extra way to start it, a huge vulnerability in the outback or in the back country. Remote choke, because I can't get my big sausage fingers in there to pull it, so I did a remote choke for the Electron, and that makes the life a whole lot easier. Custom valved Kreft rear shock as well. You should be able to see that. That brown is what do they call it? It's a special Japanese coating, Kamisha coating. It's proprietary. You have to send your parts to Japan to have them do that, but it makes everything so slippery. And then custom adjuster here. And then all of the suspension is all set up for my rider weight. This, of course, is a linkage bike, so we've got all this linkage that hangs down there. This needs to be protected, and it really hangs up when you're doing tree crossings and it gets damaged. So this is an SXS, super heavy, double reinforced, full-length skid plate that's super slippery. It just slides right over there. It's an excellent skid plate. It doesn't offer protection for the pipe, but we already talked about that. The rear brake is all factory, apart from an Enduro Engineering guard, kind of shark fin guard here. Impact hits this before ruining your rear brake rotor. I'm going to be switching over to KTM brakes. I wanted more brake power, and so I'll be going with a solid rear disc and a little bit better, more powerful rear brake, because they get hot, and the riding is just so extreme that it just puts so much effort or so much load on everything that I just want to upgrade it so I don't have any fail points. Husqvarna was purchased by KTM a few years ago and is starting to become KTM's premium line. Now they're going to share the majority of the same parts with KTM and with GasGas, but just a few different features, like a composite rear subframe and linkage suspension and different forks and such. I like to pull the tank and shrouds off when I'm working on and cleaning everything. I'm beyond meticulous and methodical with my maintenance. So one upgrade I learned from the pros was these shrouds are normally bolted right here where these rubbers are into this, and it's tedious to take. It takes a long time to take it off. So I've deleted those and just put kickstand rubbers, which work perfectly. Whoops, pouring gas on myself. And then put bolts in here so these loop over. So to take this off, I just have one bolt instead of 5. It comes off way quicker. This is the factory tank. It holds about a little over right around 2.5 gallons or so. And that gives me a range of a minimum of 125 miles, but I have pushed it to close to 140. Here you can better see the radiator guards. These bolts here are for the front fork. They're factory bolts, but they have that flange on them that those rubbers fit over perfectly. Here you can see the Electron Carburetor. Massive, massive improvement over the trash factory one. V-Force reeds, this being a 2-stroke, they're basically the valves. The factory reeds were deplorable, the tolerances, and that made a big difference as well. S3 head, this is almost 3rd piston, I think, or so. Yeah, everything tip-top. Everything's been gone through and is basically brand new. Navigation and redundancy is a big portion for me, because I you know how I am with getting lost. I don't want to get lost, and I've taken steps to not get lost. Paper maps, just as a backup when everything goes wrong, I have this and have the maps that you need. These maps, these Green Mountain Trail maps, are excellent because they're a good size, and then you can get these nice covers for them, and you can slide them in there, and they're easy to read. Beyond that is my Trail Tech. Now these all operate independent of any cell coverage. So I've got all my maps and everything. I do my rides, I pre-reload my rides, so I know exactly where they're at. And I also use an app called Gaia, G-A-I-A. It's subscription, but it's the best mapping in the world. We use it for fire as well. And so what I'll do is I'll have my Gaia running with my route here, this running, and I use 2 different zooms. So I'll zoom one in and zoom one out, so I can see if there's a hard hairpin coming up, if I'm running at high speed, just early warning, and redundancy. And so this fits inside of a really nice little pouch. This is made by Moscow Moto. And it's plastic that covers the phone screen, but it's touch sensitive. So the new Moto gloves, have that special fabric on there so you can navigate and touch your phone. And I use my phone with my Sena headset on my RE helmet, so I listen to music, audiobooks, I communicate with the other riders on it. So this really is really an important piece. I used to mount them on the handlebars, but the vibration eats the cameras and the camera stabilizers, and I've tried to warranty 3 or 4 phones, and finally they said enough. So the only way that I found to keep this safe is to have it isolated on this, which works a little bit better. You gotta be careful because you ride forward on the bike and you can rack yourself pretty hard on this, but it is soft and moves around, and it is a bit of a trade-off. And just having the small personal space for items, snacks, and your wallet and keys and such is really nice to have. You can reach it. And I'm a big fan of this bag. It had all these straps on it, which interfered with my connection to the bike. You know, you steer the bike with your legs, and the buckles and all that bothered me. So I cut all that off, and I just put a couple volley straps around the seat like that, and that works a lot better. And it just hangs on there, no problem whatsoever. My third system I also run a Garmin Phoenix, so I'll start a Follow Me GPS on that. Actually, I run 4. I have my inReach satellite communicator in case I get hurt. The inReach also is going to be tracking and following me, but this is a satellite communicator, so I wear this on my left riser on my main pack. And so before I start a trip, I send an email to Mrs. W and local friends here that tracks me every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes it sends a ping, is actually drawing a map out so she can see where I'm at in real time. And if I have a problem or I get hurt, I've got an SOS feature so I can notify her as well as search and rescue on this to my exact location. But because this is dangerous, I'm all about redundancy. I also carry what's called an ACR, and this is the heavy duty version. This is a marine quality. You have to register these with NOAA, but you buy these and you register it with the feds, and then this is marine grade, military grade stuff. So this is a satellite communicator. It's got a flip out antenna. You'd push the SOS, turn it on, and this would also bring search and rescue to you. So 2 methods for getting found. That's funny, 4 GPSs. I hadn't really registered that. I guess it's a kind of it gives you a little insight to my concern for getting lost. So we got the phone, the Trail Tech, my Garmin, as well as the paper maps, and the watch. So I haven't been lost yet, so apparently it's working. All right, well, I just thought that might be of interest to you. I don't share a lot of this type of stuff. It's pretty niche. Not everyone's into it, but those of you who will get it, get it. It's the greatest sport in the world. Thanks for watching. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.